All right, let's jump right in.
Okay,
Today, we're taking a deep dive into Guilty.
sounds good.
Specifically, Chapter 8, The Father. It's all about,
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
yeah, a world of wealth and family drama and secrets, and the scandal could totally unravel a dynasty. Everything hinges on Scott. He's the patriarch of the family.
I see. Right away, this chapter sets the scene.
Hmm.
Like Scott, he's got everything.
Right.
Successful business, loving family, but
But something's off.
yeah, there are these hints of cracks, like in the foundation. You know, we're going to peel back those layers and see what's really going on.
Love it. So we're introduced to Scott. He's the head honcho of the family's real estate firm, which of course was passed down to him.
Of course.
And all three kids are involved, which is interesting.
Yeah.
We've got Thomas. He's got that charm. He's good at closing deals, but he's also kind of a wild child.
A little bit, yeah.
Ashley's the real estate attorney, and Robert, the eldest, he chose criminal law. He didn't go into the family business.
And that choice, it seems like it earned him some major points with Scott. He even describes him as intelligent, charismatic, seemingly untouched by all the wealth.
Yeah, that's interesting. You almost wonder if Scott sees his other kids, especially Thomas, as maybe a little too comfortable with their privilege.
Oh, absolutely.
Like they take it for granted.
Yeah. It definitely sets up some potential for conflict down the line.
For sure, especially because we learn that Scott considers Robert to be his ideal successor, even though Robert's not directly involved in the family business.
Interesting.
Then we've got Tony Amaru, Scott's longtime friend, and coincidentally, he's a professor at Robert's law school.
Small world.
I know, right? They've got this bond described as thick as thieves. Just makes you think they must have some serious history.
Definitely. And then a simple phone call from Tony sends Scott spiraling back to a pivotal moment from his college years.
Totally changes the mood.
Makes you wonder, is Scott's past connected to what's happening now with Robert? Like, is there some link we haven't figured out yet?
I love that. Okay, so rewind with me to Scott in college. He's studying with his girlfriend, Natasha. She's this brilliant law student, but from a working class family. They keep the relationship a secret. She's super private.
Mm-hmm.
And Scott, well, he's Mr. Popularity.
Right.
Yeah, their worlds don't exactly mix out in the open.
It's like they come from two different planets.
You said it. And it's clear that their backgrounds could be a source of tension. Natasha's parents are pushing her toward law as a way to escape their working class roots. Scott, on the other hand, he's got all this inherited wealth. It just highlights the societal pressures they must be facing.
Oh, for sure. And there's this one line that really stuck with me. Natasha says, all the great ones are great because they know their craft inside and out. Sounds simple, right?
Yeah.
But with the scandal looming, I can't help but think it's foreshadowing. What is Natasha's craft?
Right, and how does it tie into everything happening now?
Exactly.
Okay, then, boom. Out of nowhere, Natasha drops a bombshell. She's pregnant, and Scott is completely thrown. You can feel his panic, the weight of this unexpected news. He's worried about their futures, their plans.
Yeah.
But Natasha, she's hurt, defensive, almost like she feels Scott pulling away.
Oh, that's got a sting.
Right. And you can't help but wonder if their different backgrounds, those societal expectations, are playing a role in their reactions.
Definitely a turning point for both of them.
Oh, yeah.
Despite the shock, though, Scott tells Natasha he loves her, that he'll support her.
Oh.
But there's this hesitation.
Totally.
They decide to sleep on it.
Sleep on it.
Yeah, and it leaves you hanging, wondering, what's she going to do?
Right.
What's Scott going to do?
Huge decision. And as if things weren't complicated enough, Scott's own father drops another bombshell on him, threatens to disown him if he chooses Natasha and the baby over the family business.
Oh, wow. Talk about pressure.
Right. Love versus legacy. It's the ultimate dilemma. So Scott turns to Tony, his friend, looking for advice, a way through this impossible situation.
What does Tony say?
Tony, he's the voice of reason. Right.
Tells Scott to look at the big picture, weigh the consequences carefully. Don't rush into anything, he says.
Good advice.
But you can just tell Scott is torn. He loves Natasha. He wants to be there for her and the baby, but he also feels this incredible pull towards his family's legacy, all the expectations that have been weighing on him his whole life.
I can't even imagine.
It's a tough one. So what does he do? He makes a choice. He stays with his family, promises to support Natasha and the child financially, but maintains his ties with the family.
Wow.
It's a compromise, but, probably not going to end well for anyone.
No, probably not.
And for a while, it seems like it might actually work. Scott and Natasha, they enjoy the pregnancy. Their relationship even blossoms despite all the challenges. But then, all of a sudden, Natasha and her family vanish. They go on vacation, and poof, all communication stops.
No way.
Yeah, and when the new semester starts, Natasha's just gone. Scott freaks out. He drives by her house, calls her home, but something's not right.
And this is where it gets really strange. Natasha's mother acts like she has no clue about the pregnancy.
Really?
Yeah, it's implied that Natasha made a deliberate choice to disappear.
So many questions.
Right. Why did she leave? Was it her family? Or did she have doubts about Scott? What happened to the baby? We're left with this huge mystery.
Totally. And just as we're trying to wrap our heads around Natasha's disappearance, we're snapped back to the present where a new scandal is breaking. Tony calls with urgent news. Robert is a suspect in a crime.
Oh, no.
We don't know the specifics yet, but Tony is freaking out.
Makes sense. It's his student. Right. And Robert's so close to the family.
Yeah, exactly. But here's the thing.
What?
Tony's anxiety is the total opposite of Scott's reaction.
Oh, that's interesting.
Scott is so calm and collected, it's almost unsettling. Tony's worried about Robert's reputation, the fallout from this whole thing.
Yeah.
But Scott, he's already one step ahead.
What do you mean?
He knows about the situation, and he's already secured a lawyer for Robert. A real shark, by the sounds of it.
Wow. Okay, so this shows us a side of Scott we haven't really seen before. He's not just a successful businessman. He's operating behind the scenes. He's got pull, access to information that most people don't. It makes you wonder, what else is he capable of?
Right. Is this how he always operates, even back in college with Natasha?
Exactly.
Did he make a calculated decision to stay with his family, knowing it would ultimately benefit him? Or was it like a genuine attempt to balance his responsibilities? It's hard to say.
Yeah. And then there's Tony.
Oh, poor Tony.
He's not just Scott's friend. He's a confidant, a mentor. He's been there through everything. But now he's caught between his loyalty to Scott and his concern for Robert.
Yeah, it's a tough spot.
And he's also struggling with his own personal dilemma.
Oh.
Should he tell his girlfriend, Jolie, about Robert's situation?
Oh, yeah, that's tricky.
I know, right? It's a decision that could have huge consequences for everyone involved.
What does Scott say?
Scott, being Scott, tells him to keep Jolie out of it, control the information, minimize the risk.
Classic Scott. Always thinking strategically.
Always. But just when things are getting super intense, the author throws in this moment of humor. Scott teases Tony about his dirty little secrets.
Wait, really?
Yeah, and how he's totally out of touch with pop culture.
That's kind of funny.
I know, right? It's this brief break from all the seriousness. But as we delve deeper into this family story, it's clear that these later moments are fleeting.
Yeah, the past is catching up,
Oh, yeah.
and the consequences of choices made years ago are about to come to light.
Think about it. The parallels are striking.
Okay.
Back then, Scott had this life-altering decision to make. He chose legacy over love. And now, years later, another scandal is threatening to destroy his world.
Whoa. And we're left hanging.
Oh, yeah, it's a cliffhanger.
I can't wait to see what happens next.
Me too. We've only just scratched the surface of this story.
I'm hooked.
Buckle up, because in part 2, we're going even deeper into Guilty. All right, welcome back to our deep dive into Guilty. We left off with Natasha's sudden disappearance, and now I'm really wondering how that's going to play into everything that's happening with Scott and his family.
It's almost like a ghost from the past just suddenly showed up,
Right.
like threatening to destroy everything.
Totally.
But before we go back to the present and all that drama, I think we really need to spend some time getting to know Natasha.
Yeah, she's kind of a mystery.
Yeah, what do we actually know about her? I mean, really?
Well, she's brilliant for sure, ambitious, and she values her independence, that's clear.
Definitely.
But her working class background, that's a huge contrast to Scott's world, right? Her parents see law as her ticket to a better life, and she's also guarded, private, almost a little wary of Scott's wealth and status, you know?
I see what you mean. And that line about knowing your craft inside and out, to be one of the greats, it's almost like it's like her own personal philosophy or something.
Yeah, it is. And it makes her vanishing act even more intriguing. Did she cut off contact with Scott on purpose? Was it to protect herself or the baby? Or was it something completely different, something we haven't even thought of?
Good point. And don't forget, her own mother didn't even seem to know about the pregnancy.
That's right.
It makes you wonder if maybe her family was pressuring her.
Oh, yeah, like to keep it all a secret.
Yeah, exactly.
And remember how she mentioned color as a potential obstacle. It feels like she might have been facing some prejudice, maybe disapproval from Scott's family, or even society in general.
Yeah. It's a small detail, but it's significant, right? Like another layer to their whole story.
For sure. So we don't have all the answers about Natasha, but we do know one thing. She's not just some side character in all of this. She's complex. She's got her own reasons for doing things, her own fears and aspirations.
Absolutely. Her absence hangs over everything that's happening now, shaping how Scott reacts to the drama unfolding in the present.
Totally. Speaking of the present, we have Robert, Scott's golden boy, mixed up in a criminal investigation. We still don't know the details of the crime, but Tony's reaction says it all.
Oh yeah, he is worried.
Totally freaking out. And
Yeah.
it's such a contrast to Scott, who's calm and collected. It's almost strange how different they are.
Yeah, it's striking. Like, Tony's in a tailspin over Robert's reputation and all the potential consequences.
Right.
But Scott, he's like almost eerily prepared.
Right.
Like he's already got it all figured out.
He does. He's already found a top-notch lawyer for Robert and
Yeah.
basically says he'll do whatever it takes to protect his son, even if it means going up against the police.
Wow. That's when we really see that calculated, controlling side of Scott. Like this guy, he's used to getting his way.
He is.
And he's not afraid to use whatever means necessary to make that happen.
It's almost like he's playing chess
Yeah.
while everyone else is playing checkers.
It makes you think, has he always been this way, even back in college with Natasha?
Right. Was his decision to stay with his family, knowing it would help him in the long run, part of some master plan? Or was it actually a genuine attempt to find balance?
It's tough to say for sure.
Yeah. And then there's Tony.
Oh, poor Tony.
He's more than just a friend to Scott. He's like a confidant, a mentor. But now he's stuck between a rock and a hard place.
Loyalty and concern.
Exactly. Plus, he's dealing with his own dilemma. Should he tell Jolie, his girlfriend, about what's happening with Robert?
I can't believe he's even considering that.
Yeah, it's a decision with huge implications, right? It could put Jolie in a difficult position or even mess things up for Robert's case.
Absolutely. And what's Scott's advice? Keep her out of it.
Of course. Control the information. Less risk.
Classic Scott. Always playing it safe.
Always. But then, just when things are getting really heavy, the author throws in this moment of humor. Scott starts teasing Tony about his dirty little secrets and how he's totally clueless about pop culture.
It's like a breath of fresh air. Yeah, it is. It reminds you that even in the middle of a crisis, people can still find a way to connect, to laugh.
Totally. But it's clear these light moments are fleeting. The past is catching up, and choices made years ago are about to have some serious consequences.
I wonder what those will be.
Me too. Think about it. It's all connected. Back then, Scott chose his legacy over love. And now, another scandal is threatening to blow up his world.
Whoa. This is getting intense.
It is. We're not just watching a story unfold. We're exploring what it means to be human, the choices we make,
The consequences we face.
the secrets that bind us.
It's about ambition, the weight of family legacies, and how the past always seems to find a way to catch up with you.
Exactly. And that's what makes this deep dive so captivating. Okay, so we're back for the final part of our deep dive into Guilty.
Alrighty.
Things are really heating up. We've got secrets. We've seen how Scott operates, and that family facade is definitely crumbling.
It feels like we're watching this high wire act.
Yeah.
Scott's balancing between his past and his present and trying so hard to keep it all together.
But can he? Will his world actually survive all of this?
Good question.
I mean, he's dealing with a lot right now. His son Robert's caught up in this criminal investigation. And then there's Natasha, his college sweetheart, and the mother of his child. Her presence is just hanging over everything.
His past is colliding with his present.
Like some kind of epic showdown.
Totally. Almost like a Greek tragedy.
Right.
The sins of the father coming back to haunt him.
Yeah, it's intense. And the way he handles these crises, it really tells you a lot about him. He's calm, collected, always thinking steps ahead.
Right.
But will that be enough to protect his family and everything he's built?
That's what I keep asking myself. We've seen his tactics, right? He controls information. He manipulates situations. He uses his money and his connections to get what he wants. But what if those tactics don't work this time? What if the truth comes out no matter what he does?
That's what makes this story so fascinating. It's not just about a wealthy family and a scandal. It's about human nature, the choices we make, the consequences,
Right.
the secrets we keep, the price of ambition, the power of the past.
You said it. And as we finish this chapter, I'm left with so many questions.
Same here.
What really happened with Natasha? Is Robert going to be okay? And will Scott actually have to face his past?
The author has done such an amazing job creating this world of suspense and intrigue. You just have to know what happens next.
Definitely.
It's not just entertainment, though. It makes you think about your own life and choices.
Exactly.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into Guilty, I want you to think about your own past. Are there choices you've made, secrets you've kept that still affect you today?
Hmm.
How do you make peace with those decisions? What lessons have you learned?
Good questions. Really makes you think.
It does. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.